In Richmond, Virginia, a group of people is watching satellites at night. A boy named Leo Biederman and a girl named Sarah Hochner are looking through a telescope and playing around. Their supervisor, Gus Partenza, approaches and asks them to name the stars. Biederman identifies one as Mizar, saying it's a double star. When asked about the next one, Biederman checks and says it's Alcor. Partenza praises him and asks about the next one. Biederman, unsure, says he doesn't know. Sarah suggests it's Migres, but Biederman disagrees, explaining it's 10 degrees south of Migres. Partenza looks and says it's probably a satellite and asks them to take another picture to send to a man called Dr. Wolf. After Partenza leaves, Sarah and Biederman continue debating whether it's Migres. At the Aderian Peak Observatory in Tucson, Arizona, Dr. Marcus Wolf is outside humming a song before entering his office. While eating, he looks at photos sent by Biederman. Upon examining one image, he notices something strange moving and becomes alarmed. He grabs a report with Biederman's name and rushes out. Driving fast and trying to make a call, he doesn't see an oncoming truck. The truck driver, who is drunk, also doesn't see him. They crash, and Wolf's car burns. In Washington, D.C., reporters are covering the recall of American troops from abroad. A tragedy strikes as a plane carrying soldiers from Japan crashes. In an MSNBC newsroom, reporters including Marianne Duclos, Jeff Worth, Beth Stanley, Jenny Lerner, and their boss, Stuart Cayley, discuss the White House press office statement that Secretary of the Treasury Alan Rittenhouse is resigning due to his wife's illness. Jenny claims he's not resigning for that reason, saying his wife started drinking after he had affairs and worsened after their son's death. Jeff jokes about doing a piece on the price wives pay. Beth and Jenny whisper about Mike Woodward, who's been pursuing Jenny. Jenny says she used that to ask him about Rittenhouse. She also mentions that Bob Campbell is leaving and the weekend anchor spot is opening. Beth asks why she'd leave the White House for that. Jenny says it's not for her but for Jenny. Stuart calls them Beth, and Beth tells Jenny they'll talk later. They return to the meeting, where Beth says the president will be back from Camp David and tells Jenny to keep digging into Rittenhouse and maybe have dinner with Mike. She tells Jenny to do standard background research. Stuart ends the meeting. Jenny later drinks with her mother, who smokes and discusses her ex-husband's new wife, who is 2 years older than Jenny. Jenny says she wishes she could stay but has to leave. Jenny speaks with a former colleague of Secretary Rittenhouse, who says he made inappropriate calls and caused her to lose her job. The colleague says the president knew and overheard Rittenhouse talking about a woman named Ellie. Jenny visits Rittenhouse on his boat with a cameraman. She meets his daughter, Lily, and asks about her mother. Lily says she's sick. Rittenhouse appears, tells Lily to go inside, and Jenny brings up Ellie. The cameraman starts filming. Rittenhouse tells them to stop recording before continuing. Jenny says they know about the secret calls and whispers with the president. Rittenhouse says if she runs the story, it's her choice. He congratulates her, saying it's the biggest story ever, but he thinks it's a mistake. He says he just wants to be with his family and leaves with Lily. Jenny, while driving, reports by phone that Secretary Rittenhouse is resigning due to an affair with Ellie. She claims he's taking the fall for the president. Suddenly, her car is hit from behind, and the FBI takes her to the White House. There, Jenny meets a man called Morton Entrekin. She says she's expected at MSNBC. He says people kept the Manhattan Project a secret. She jokes that she was just building a bomb. Everyone around her looks serious, and she's confused. President Tom Beck arrives and asks Jenny what she knows about Ellie. She says they used a sick wife as a cover. Beck tells Morton she's confirmed what he suspected. He asks Jenny to delay the story for 2 days and offers her a promotion and visibility at the press conference as a presidential favor. He says he needs to avoid another crisis and believes in her. Tom says goodbye and will see her Tuesday. Jenny, curious, searches for ELE and finds it means extinction level event. She is shocked. Later, Beck visits with her little daughter. Jenny is still stunned. Beck asks about Rittenhouse. She says they're still working on it. Beck promises a better story next time and leaves. At a restaurant, Jenny meets her father Jason and stepmother, Chloe. Jenny is visibly unhappy. Jason asks why she missed the wedding. Chloe gives her a gift, but Jenny isn't pleased. Chloe says she knows Jenny hates her but tells her to move on. Jenny laughs bitterly and tells her father to return to her mother, saying she needs him. Jason apologizes to Chloe, and Jenny leaves. At the White House press conference, Jenny meets Beth, who is surprised to see her. Morton arrives, greets Beth, and escorts Jenny to her seat. Beth is confused. Morton tells Jenny she'll get the first question. The press conference begins. A woman welcomes everyone and introduces the president. All rise as President Tom enters and begins his address. He says U.S. ambassadors have just informed world leaders of what he's about to announce. It's complicated, so he asks for patience. He begins explaining that over a year ago, two American astronomers, Marcus Wolf and Leo Biederman, saw something concerning in the night sky, a comet with a potential trajectory toward Earth. As the news spread, Leo, his family and Marcus Wolf saw the news at home and became increasingly involved, and Leo grew more interested. The president continued his explanation, saying the discovery raised serious concerns. A comet. There was a remote possibility that this comet was on a collision course with Earth. He mentioned that Earth gets hit by rocks and meteors regularly, some the size of cars, others no bigger than a hand. But this comet was different. It was the size of New York City, stretching from the north side of Central Park to the Battery, around 7 miles long. In other words, it was larger than Mount Everest and weighed 500 billion tons. As he went on, the audience began to murmur, showing signs of concern. MSNBC reporters in their offices started reacting, sensing the seriousness of the announcement. The president continued, "Comets originate far out in space. They are remnants from the formation of the solar system, billions of years ago. These objects follow elongated orbits around the sun. Occasionally, one gets knocked out of orbit, like a billiard ball on a pool table, and enters a new path. If this comet maintains its current trajectory, it could collide with Earth on August 16th, roughly a year from now." For the past 8 months, the United States and Russia had been working together to build the largest spaceship ever constructed. It was being assembled in orbit and was named the Messiah. At Cape Canaveral in Florida, a team of American astronauts and one Russian specialist were preparing to board the shuttle Atlantis. In 2 months, they would leave for the Messiah. The president introduced the crew live from their station. Mission Commander Oren Monash, Pilot Andrea Baker, Medical Officer Gus Pertenza, Russian nuclear specialist Colonel Mikhail Tulchinsky, Navigator Mark Simon, and Rendezvous Pilot Spurgeon Tanner. During the introduction, it was mentioned that Captain Tanner had flown 6 shuttle missions and was the last man to walk on the moon. However, most of the flying on this mission would be handled by Commander Oren Monash. Tanner's role was to land the spacecraft on the surface of the comet. The president wished them good luck, and they expressed their gratitude. Meanwhile, MSNBC news team was broadcasting updates, but there was no clear consensus among analysts. The room became filled with noise and confusion. Back in the briefing room, Tom concluded his remarks. He stated that society would continue as before, with no changes to services or costs. Then, he opened the room for questions. Many reporters raised their hands. President Tom gave a chance to Ms. Lerner. She introduced herself as being from MSNBC. A team from MSNBC began watching her broadcast. She asked why the announcement wasn't made sooner. Tom replied they knew they could build the rocket and intercept the comet and saw no reason to alarm the planet. She then asked if there was any connection between the comet and the recall of American troops from abroad. Tom responded that troops were coming home due to domestic security concerns, although he hoped they wouldn't be needed. Her final question was about Secretary Rittenhouse's resignation, if he left for other reasons, and if some in the administration doubted the Messiah mission. Tom said Rittenhouse served with devotion and resigned for personal reasons. Then he assured everyone that in the next 10 months, people would face their worst fears, but life would go on. A reporter named Sally asked about the comet's name. The president explained that the 2 scientists who discovered it died in a car crash while rushing to report it. It would be named Wolf Biederman. Leo and Wolf, seeing the broadcast, heard their names. At Biederman's house, the door knocked and Leo's little sister opened it. It was Sarah and children from the village. The news kept broadcasting. Leo and Dr. Wolf went outside. Leo told them Wolf was alive. On the next day at school, Leo explained how Dr. Wolf discovered the comet and shared it with him. Then Wolf died in the crash and things got mixed up in Washington, so the president thought Leo had died too. Students began asking questions. A girl called Jasmine asked how Leo felt about having his name on the comet. Leo said he didn't want people thinking he took credit from Dr. Wolf. A boy named Jason joked Leo would now get attention from girls because he was famous. Leo was surprised by the comment. Meanwhile, the Messiah crew talked with their families about their plans after returning. Some had babies and shared thoughts with their wives. Tanner talked with his sons, Steve and Dwight. It was the 7th time they'd seen him go to space. A friend of his came and took Tanner for a beer. Tanner said the crew were all heroes and none feared as much as he did. His friends said they weren't scared of dying, they were scared of looking bad on TV, and they laughed. That night, the crew drank and talked. Tanner joined them and said he felt out of place. He'd walked on the moon and didn't belong to them, he belonged to their fathers. They told him he wasn't trained for this mission and was there only because they needed a familiar face. Tanner replied he had 500 aircraft carrier landings and was afraid because this wasn't a video game. Messiah Mission Day 1. The crew prepared under Captain Tanner's leadership. They began moving. A reporter said the shuttle carried 8 nuclear devices to deflect the comet, powered by an experimental nuclear propulsion system called Orion, aided by Russian engineers. 5 months later, at MSNBC, Stewart assigned tasks: Beth, White House reaction; Marianne, the world's response; Tim, mission control; Ira, the science side. He reminded them it was the biggest story of their lives. Jenny asked for her role. Stewart told her she'd anchor and warned her not to withhold stories again. In space, the crew neared the comet and were amazed by its size. Jenny reported live. The Messiah was about to enter its most critical phase, intercepting Wolf, Biedermann, and planting nuclear devices to deflect it. The crew had to finish before sunrise. Jenny explained the Messiah's images were delayed by 20 seconds due to distance. As they approached the comet's coma, its tail of gas, dust, and ice, the image feed was lost. Tanner and Captain Andrea Baker ensured safe distance, then the crew exited with drilling machine. They had 1 hour 36 minutes and 30 seconds to complete the mission. The drill got stuck. When told 75 feet wasn't deep enough, Orrin went in to fix it. With 23:57 left, he kept working. With 1:02 left, he was pulled back. Tanner urged them to hurry. As they escaped, the sun rose behind them. One member, Gus Partenza, died due to explosive outgassing. Orrin Monash was injured. Mikhail asked to retrieve Gus, but Tanner said there was no time. Jenny announced the Messiah lifted off safely, though Gus was lost. Gus, a Carnegie Mellon graduate, had joined NASA after Duke University. Tanner now led the mission. Messiah docked with Orion boosters and prepared to detonate the bombs. The external camera would show the explosion but be blocked temporarily by the blast. People watched everywhere. Leo held Sarah's hand as they saw the news. Captain Tanner and Andrea Baker prepared to move, but the image disappeared. Jenny said they were waiting for it to return. The spacecraft was struck by debris. At the president's office, Morton got a call. They lost contact with the Messiah. He whispered it to President Tom, who walked toward the stage to make an announcement. Tom continued, explaining that it was his unhappy duty to report that the Messiah mission had failed. People, including reporters, were watching. He said this computer-enhanced radar image from Houston showed that the detonation succeeded, and an image appeared on the screen. However, it didn't destroy the comet. There were now 2 pieces, one 6 miles wide, the other 1.5 miles. Both were still heading toward Earth. They had lost communication with the Messiah spacecraft. Though they could track it visually, they didn't know how many crew members were alive. The president spoke with a broken heart, saying they didn't know the crew's condition and now had to make difficult decisions. He said everyone had a choice. Since the comet was discovered, they had hoped for the best but planned for the worst. Their strategy had 2 parts. First, Strategic Missile Command, with help from the Russians, would launch a massive strike with Titan missiles. If the missiles deflected the comets even slightly, they could miss Earth. But the Titans couldn't be launched until just hours before impact. While they believed the missile strike could work, it was also wise to prepare for the worst-case scenario. Tom explained that, in the soft limestone of Missouri, they had been preparing a network of immense caves, almost finished, that could shelter 1 million people underground for 2 years until the air cleared. He said it wasn't just a shelter, it was their new Noah's Arkansas inside. They stored seeds, animals, and supplies to restart life. On August 10th, a computer would randomly select 800,000 Americans to join the 200,000 scientists, doctors, engineers, soldiers, teachers, and artists already chosen. Other countries were making similar preparations. Beginning that night and until the crisis passed, martial law was declared. The armed forces and National Guard were working with local law enforcement. A national curfew would begin at midnight. People were told to go home. News stations were receiving the lottery procedures and would broadcast the details shortly. The president ended by saying he believed in God and asked for God's help. MSNBC reporters began preparing. Jenny started reporting the lottery details, saying pre-selected individuals would be notified within minutes. The rest would be chosen on the night of August 10th. As she read, her voice disconnected slightly. She continued, saying unofficial travel would be permitted and those selected would be taken by bus or train. At the Biederman house, Ellen, Leo's mother, Don, Leo's father, Leo, Sarah, Chuck Hochner, Sarah's father, and Ms. Hochner sat together. The phone rang. Ellen answered and told them they had been selected. They were happy. Chuck left, saying he had to check their home phone in case they got a call too. On the spacecraft, Tanner asked Andrea if they could get back into the cargo bay to reroute the video. She said yes, but their life support packs were low. They might be able to contact Houston on low-band radio once they got closer. Tanner asked if Orion was still functioning. She said system checks were okay, but the radiation shielding was uncertain. If they fired it up and beat the comet back to Earth, they might glow in the dark. Tanner asked the team if they wanted to try. Oren suggested to go home, and Tanner agreed. Jenny and her mom were walking. Her mom said it was liberating not being called and that she never imagined herself without smoking. Jenny asked about the money she saved. Her mom said she gave it to the National Gallery and they stored it in the cave. Jenny asked why she was chosen, since she wasn't an engineer or scientist. Her mom said people love continuity. They know and trust her. Jenny felt bad for not being able to support her mom, but her mom said knowing Jenny would be safe was enough. Leo went to Sarah's house. Her mom and dad were there. He asked for Sarah. Her mom said she was on the hill. Leo went to her and asked why she hadn't come to school. Sarah said her dad told her not to. There was no point. Leo told her he spoke to civil defense and if they got married, they'd be considered family and she could join. Sarah asked about her family. Leo said he was famous now, and that helped. She agreed. Across the country, looters set fire to abandoned stores. Fires were left to burn, as firefighters were reassigned to shelters. In Latin America, city centers were taken over by gangs. A priest officiated Leo and Sarah's wedding. On the spacecraft, Oren was lying down. Tanner helped remove the bandage from his eye, but Oren couldn't see. Tanner joked they didn't bring books, but he brought Moby Dick and Huckleberry Finn. Oren said he was more of a movie guy. He talked about seeing flashes of color in dreams, part of him always awake. Tanner appreciated that. Oren asked why people called him Fish. Tanner said it took 15 minutes at the Naval Academy. His kids also went there. They talked about Tanner's dead wife. Then Tanner started reading Moby Dick to him. A military truck arrived at the Biedermans. Soldiers asked for IDs. Leo told them his wife, Sarah, was also with them, showing the marriage license. After checking, the soldier let them in. Sarah asked about her parents. Leo asked the military to check their names, but they weren't on the list. Sarah insisted on staying with them. She stayed behind. Leo and Sarah looked at each other through the window, a painful goodbye. At her office, Jenny got a call. Her mother had passed away. She was devastated and left, despite colleagues asking for help. In the rain, Jenny sat alone. Jason arrived and asked what she wanted him to do. She said it was too late. She had handled everything. He urged her to get in the car, wanting to talk. Jenny said she felt like an orphan. She told him to go back to Chloe and talk to her. He said Jenny's mom had taken her from him. He still asked her to get in, but she refused and left in a taxi. At the Ark site in the limestone cliffs of Missouri, the military welcomed people. A section leader from Orange 254 told them this would be their home for 2 years. He told them to gather their things and follow the orientation. Leo stayed behind. He told his parents he wouldn't go in, he had to go back for Sarah. Though they insisted, he refused. Don gave him his watch and some things to trade. They hugged him goodbye. He told them he would make it and left. Back at the office, Jason arrived holding something. He showed her 2 old photos of them when she was 5, taken by her mom. Jenny told him she didn't remember it. He said it was a happy day and gave them to her, saying it would help her believe she's not alone. Then he said goodbye. While Leo returned on a bus, reporters confirmed the launch of all Titan missiles from their positions in North Dakota and Wyoming. The comets are now approximately 14 hours out and just beyond Earth's atmosphere. It's estimated that the missiles will take less than 20 minutes to reach their targets. Jenny, broadcasting live, showed on screen that all Titans had been launched. Still, they wouldn't know if it made a difference until the comets traveled far enough for radar to detect whether they'd been pushed off course. Once again, they had to wait. President Tom went live again. With a broken heart, he announced that the missiles had failed, the comets were still heading for Earth, and there was nothing more they could do. He said if the world continues, it won't be for everyone. They had now calculated the comets' final trajectories. The smaller comet, Biedermann, would strike first, along the Atlantic seaboard, likely in the waters off Cape Hatteras, at approximately 4:35 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, just under 12 hours away. The impact would be catastrophic. A massive tidal wave, 100 feet high and moving at 1,100 miles per hour, faster than the speed of sound, would surge through the Atlantic. As it nears land, the wave will slow down, but depending on the ocean floor's depth, it could rise to between 1,000 and 3,500 feet. Where the land is flat, the water will reach 600 to 700 miles inland. The wave will strike Washington, D.C. 40 minutes after impact. New York City, Boston, Atlanta, and Philadelphia will be destroyed. Anyone there is urged to evacuate immediately. Tom was also reported that many animal and plant species would go extinct. The president wished good luck to all who were listening. Jenny and Eric, her colleague, also Leo, and the passengers heard it live. Tanner at the craft talked with the crew and told them to take a look at the big one. The outgassing has created a vent a half-mile wide and at least 2 miles deep. And they have talked a way out of it, and Andrea has told them they have to see the bright side of it, which may all have a high school named after them. The Messiah team got a chance to connect with a call with the Houston team, and Morton was the one who responded. All the reporters got excited to hear from them, and Morton asked them what they were doing. At the MSNBC office, they are talking about how they will leave the city. They have talked. They have one helicopter that holds 7 people, and Tom has made Beth choose, and unfortunately, she has taken the short stick and she has to leave. Beth held her little daughter and left the room. Leo arrived at Sarah's house, but he couldn't get anyone, and then he started to go with a bike to follow them. The road was full of cars that were on their way out of the city. Jenny went to the room where Beth and her daughter were sitting and took Beth's daughter, even though Eric told her they had to leave and Beth had followed them. Jenny told Beth to take her seat, and Jenny left. They had gone. Leo drove the bike and looked in each car for Sarah. After some trial, he found them in a car, and Leo and Sarah hugged. Sarah's father and mother made Sarah hold her little sister and go with Leo, even though she insisted on not going. They told her there was no time. They started to leave with a bike. Jenny went to a place where Jason was, near the sea, and he saw her in a loving way. Playfully, she told him she had taken $32 from his wallet when she was 11, and he told her he once dropped her on her head. They laughed together. She told him she remembered the photo he brought her and remembered the day and everything. She told him she came here to say thank you and that she misses him. Then they hugged. He also told her he missed her. The comet came to Earth and destroyed the villages that reached the water first, and then the erosion destroyed the city. Also, the place where Jenny and Jason were standing was destroyed. The Messiah team told the group they were going to begin their run, and all the families of the crew came and talked to them live, and they cried. Also, Oren's wife came late holding her baby, whom he didn't know about, and even though he couldn't see them, he cried and told them he loved them. The Messiah team started to run. Leo and Sarah survived and saw what happened, standing on the mountain. The president gave a speech on how the people who died are heroes. With every child they comforted and taught to rejoice in what they had been re-given, their planet, their home, and an announcement to begin.